Welcome back to another episode of Boom or Bust. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about the NFL draft first round as we are getting closer and closer. Yet so far away it feels like, but we almost there. The NFL draft, the culmination of all this work, but also, obviously a time for a lot of fans to be excited to see what their team's going to do. So I want to talk about the first round in particular, obviously the main event of it all. But this year, I'm sure if you looked at anything pertaining to this 22 draft, then you know that most people think this draft class isn't the strongest. And as a result of the back and forth, I think this first round has the potential to get crazy. Now, I want to preface that by saying we've seen the first round of the draft be a lot more active in the last 5 to 7 years than we ever have. This is all following the rookie scale change with CBA when they officially changed that, and rookies were no longer negotiating through the roof contracts, which made picking a high pick a good thing, but also a really scary proposition. Now, comparatively, what you're paying, hey, you could take a swing and it miss and it won't kill you. Even though people say you miss quarterback, sets you back, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. That's up to the team. If you get a player and you don't think that quarterback is it, you don't have to sit there and wait 5 years. That's up to you. But anyway, it makes teams a lot more interested in not only taking swings on their picks, but also trading picks and, giving up that slot. If I could go get a player that's not going to break the bank that I think is going to be special, then I'll be more willing to give up stuff. And then, of course, we know the whole F those picks things going on right now for teams trying to compete. So they might not care. They might give up a lot of future to go get something right now. So that is within that context, we've seen the first rounds become a lot more active. And I think this draft particularly can get a little crazy. And there's a few reasons why. I'm going to say the first reason starts with the first pick. There is no clear-cut number one pick. Now, obviously, a mock draft don't really mean a whole lot. But when you talk about the first pick, typically you know what that conversation is. Now, again, mock drafts don't mean a whole bunch, but if you look at them, you'll see a bunch of different things. And it's even changing even more this week, where now Walker, I want to say it's Trayvon, but I can't remember right now. But Walker out of Georgia, everyone is now talking about him potentially being the number one overall pick, which is absolutely insane. But I'll say this also. Something has happened this year that I've never seen in all the time that I've been covering the draft. Now, that's what, it's more than 10 years now. Yeah, way more than 10 years. But it ain't, 50 years or anything. So it's not like I've been here forever. But I've been covering the draft since I was in high school. And I've never seen what's happening this year, which is the number one, or what is thought to be the number one player, the number one pick, Aiden Hutchinson, who comes into, I would say, playoff season as the presumed number one, and then gets bumped out of that spot roughly once we start draft season in January for what's his name, Evan Neal out of Alabama. At one point, everybody's just like, Evan Neal, that's the guy. And then, okay, Michigan guy, Detroit number 2, plug him in number 2, perfect. Well, what about Kayvon Thibodeau? What about Icky? What about this? And so then it wasn't even necessarily strong at 2. The conversation was, he could go 2 or he could go 5. He might not even be the best pass rusher. This man did nothing but good things throughout the whole process, yet he was no longer number one pick. And then Evan Neal has now fallen off. And guess who has risen back up to the number one pick? Aiden Hutchinson. I've never seen that. If you think about the consent, and obviously there's years where we don't know who the number one pick might be, but the ones where it's like, this is the guy. You've never seen the guy fall down and get back up. Because usually if they fall down, it's because something that legit, people found out that's legit. That's happened. Either it might be an injury thing, might be a character thing, whatever it might be. If you are seen as the number one player and for you to move backwards, something legit had to happen and you don't come back up to the number one pick. And that's what Aiden Hutchinson has done. So that just tells you one thing. There is no real clear number one pick. Because that never happens. And so we are sitting here on the 12th. I believe somebody said 16 days, something like that. We are 16 days away. And we really don't have an idea between, I would say, 4 or 5 guys who the number one pick might be. That tells you a lot. So what that means is that the Jags could really shake up the order just from the jump. And obviously, if you're picking someone in that top 5, you got an idea of a group of players. But you really don't. That guy that the Giants is looking at 5 could be going number 1. And that tells you a lot. The second thing that kind of makes this potential for the first round to kind of be crazy is that there's a lot of teams with multiple picks. There's a lot of teams with ammo. And the flip side of that is you can't have a lot of teams with multiple picks without having teams that don't have picks. So this could go either way. We already seen the Saints shoot their shot, which was interesting because usually, there's a little more pressure on draft night. But, maybe they wanted to, or the Eagles said, hey, we want to get that first round pick next year. And that's not a guarantee with the little minutes on the clock that we can get that deal done. But we got time now, so let's make sure we get it done. That's possible. And so, okay, the Saints did what they had to do. Now they got 2 first round picks. And the Eagles go from 3 to 2 first round picks. But you could see somebody do that. You could see somebody trade, like the Eagles take the 2 picks they got and trade up, or the Saints take the 2 picks they got and trade up, or both. Or you might see somebody again say, oh, we don't have first round pick. Let's trade a bunch of this stuff and let's get one of those extra first round picks you got. The Jets have 4 and 10, and then the Giants are 5 and 7. They're within a pick of each other. That's it. 2 top 10 picks. Who knows what they can do? Now, I've heard a lot of talk about what players might be on the move. And for some reason, that has been a big conversation the last 3 years. And it never holds up. Historically, it doesn't hold up. And in these drafts, it hasn't held up. We just do not see any significant players get moved on draft night consistently. That's once every now and then thing. Usually a player getting moved during the draft is somebody that's not significant. So I don't really see any of that craziness happening, although it could. Definitely Baker could happen, and I guess he's significant. I don't know. But other than that, I just really think the way picks are going to move or could move can be kind of crazy because, again, you got a lot of teams with ammo, and that changes a lot because you have to really think about it. If it's 1 through 32, all 32 teams, you really are playing just within your area. You wherever you picking at, you kind of playing within your area. You kind of know what the draft board might be. Honestly, if you're later in the draft, it's easier for you because if one of the top players tumbles for some reason, that makes your decision easy. But when you're talking about people with multiple picks, then it becomes, okay, there's more strategy. Because it's like, okay, we got one pick, we got to really lock in and make sure we get this. But if you got multiple picks, a team might say, okay, let's target this. It might be a little early, might be a little whatever. And then we could always clean it up with our other pick here. And that can change the draft order too. So those are two big reasons. But the main reason, I would say that's like 10% and 10%. The other 80% is this quarterback class is boo-boo. And I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why, but I don't understand how this is happening. Although I should, because it happened with the Vince Young class too, but they were a lot better prospects. But anyway, I just don't get how this is happening with quarterbacks who are so clearly not good prospects. And look, the casual fan that just, oh, you don't know, you never know. These people aren't right, blah, blah, blah. Players could do anything. Like, yes, that is a very surface, non-descriptive way to get into it. Yes. Is it possible? Yes, but we're talking about probability, not possibility. So probability that they are just going to become somebody that they weren't is not high. And so these prospects, as I've said, they're not good prospects. I mean, you talk about like Josh Allen, because people get this stuff confused. Josh Allen had the upside, and some people could say he still got room to grow, but for the most part, he's started to scratch that upside. But that wasn't a guarantee. That doesn't mean when he came out, he was ready to beat his Josh Allen. People like to forget that he had the worst completion percentage those first few years in the league. Like, Josh Allen came out with a lot of holes. And so it's one thing if you're like, hey, this is a very, I wouldn't say damaged goods. That's not a good one. But you could say I'm taking a shot on this. I'm taking a flyer, and we might be able to make something out of it. That's one thing. But it's another thing to listen to these people talk about Malik Willis should go number 2 and Kenny Pickett should go 6 or in the top 5, and Matt Corral in the first round just blows my mind. I even seen somebody with Matt Corral at the number 2 pick. Okay. They're not good prospects. You know what I mean? They don't have all the things that make you a good prospect. Again, Josh Allen, he's a perfect example, so I just keep using him. He didn't he didn't have the complete game, but he had all the things that made him a good prospect. Like, if we can put it together, he can ascend. And we talk about ceilings for a reason. Some people don't have high ceilings. If you are coming in with a level 4 arm or a level 3.5 arm, your ceiling's lower. There's not a whole lot you can do in your career that's just going to change that, because what makes a great quarterback is is documented. This isn't a guessing game. And people get into this with Lamar Jackson, which makes it a more conversation. Oh, you see, you don't have to play quarterback the same way. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you really do. I mean, there is objectively, factually, physically a way that is more efficient than the others. It's just point blank, period. When you plan a game of seconds and inches, there's certain there's certain techniques and behaviors, and as a football player in certain positions, that are just more effective and efficient. It's just period. And so if you don't have the skill sets to reach that, you won't reach that. That's just what it is. So you look at these prospects, and they're all missing something that is one of those things. And so, again, quarterbacks get pushed up every year. I get that. But with a year like this, where the writing is so clear on the wall, it's tough for me to see all these people keep pushing these quarterbacks up and talking about them. And then again, These are the same quarterbacks you're going to be trashing later, just like they did with Carson Wentz. And now we know what they say about Carson Wentz. Jared Goff, who was a consensus number one, but still some people said, yeah, would he be a number one in other years? Well, we don't know. And trash him. We see what happened. Baker Mayfield, was he supposed to be number one? Is he a number one in other years? We saw what happened to him. And so, the list is longer, way longer than that. And so people keep pushing quarterbacks up and expecting something different. And you talking about players who are way better prospects who had bad careers. I don't see how these mid-tier prospects going to a bad team high up would be a good thing for them. Yes, they can get in a situation where they got a really good team around them and they can play their part and they can maybe even grow and be, reach that ceiling. But that doesn't mean they're going to become a elite quarterback. And so people say, well, you don't have to be elite to win. Fine, yeah, but do you need to spend a second round or a number 2 overall pick on somebody that's not going to become elite? And again, that's a function of the class, which again brings me back to my point. This first round could be crazy because there are no elite prospects. If there's an elite prospect, you know how things might fall. When there's quarterbacks that people want, you know how things might fall. These quarterbacks do not have the confidence of every team. And so somebody might reach, and that will push a player or so back. 2 people might reach, and then you're going to really start seeing a domino effect. Because if all of a sudden you get a tackle who you thought might be going is now on a team on the clock doesn't need a tackle, or Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle, the team doesn't need him, and they're on the clock, so now he's getting pushed down, and then somebody might say, okay, well, that person's getting pushed down further than we thought. Let's try to make a move and go get him. So that could happen. Again, mock drafts don't tell you everything, but if you look at any of these mock drafts, like I saw one ridiculous one where darn near all the quarterbacks went in the first round except for one, and that completely changes the first round. Obviously, again, it's just a mock draft, but the concept is still there. If you get Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, all in the first round, that will completely jack up the round. Not to say it'll be bad, but we're going to see some crazy things. So, again, I don't think that's going to happen. But where are these quarterbacks going to go? And if none of the quarterbacks go, if everybody stands pat and they all go to the second round, that would completely reshape the first round. Because now you're going to have people in the first round we weren't expecting. Or you're going to have people getting a little desperate and might pull the trigger early. So, again, to me, the biggest thing is that the quarterbacks they're not a good class. Because if you had somebody that was legit, even if it was just one who was going number 1 overall, that again would set you up to know. But you don't know, or I should say we don't have anyone that's legit elite or top prospect at quarterback. So now we don't know who's going number 1. And since we don't know who's going number 1, we don't know how the top 5 is going to shake out. And since people got a lot of draft picks, they might, make some moves. So be prepared. Be prepared. This draft class or this first round of this draft might get a little crazy. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.